Hey everybody, this is just a quick video, relatively speaking, on PowerPoint. So here's where we are. You now have done all your outlining. Your second main speech, your second persuasive speech, is going to be roughly the same as your first. Now, here are the differences. It's the same topic, it's the same layout, it's the same Monroe's, it's the same, but two things. One, include the edits or the feedback that I give you when I have that ready. I'm going to go ahead and put this video out, but I will send out the feedback to you by the end of the week so that you're able to go ahead and start reworking some things. Then the other thing is that you're going to use a PowerPoint for the second version of this speech. Those are the only two differences. So it should be a little better, a little tighter, and have a PowerPoint. So, a couple of things that I want to share with you about that PowerPoint that I think is going to be very important. First of all, only use PowerPoint. Only use PowerPoint. Google Slides can work, but I'm telling you, if you do use Google Slides because you don't have PowerPoint, that should be the only reason that you use something else if you don't have PowerPoint. You can use Google Slides, but when you send me the link, make sure that it gives me access to edit so that I can give you feedback. That ran really rampant last time around with the outline, and tons of points were lost. So don't do that. I really advise you, if you can at all, use PowerPoint. I like PowerPoint because it's what we're familiar with. And more importantly, though, in the future, wherever you go in terms of work or civic engagements or, whatever it is where you're going to give a presentation, chances are the equipment will be able to use PowerPoint. I don't know that will be able to use, other sort of services or software. One other thing that I don't want you to use definitely is Prezi. I don't like Prezi. I know that some people love it. I think it is definitely good for some things like group projects and brainstorming and that kind of stuff. But for a presentation like yours, it doesn't really. It's not the best tool for the job. So stay away from Prezi for now. So with this PowerPoint, I'm going to tell you some things about do's and don'ts on PowerPoint. Most of this you probably already know, but if not, I want to make sure that everybody's on the same starting spot. The first thing that I want to tell you, though, is how to record your next speech, how to record the final speech. And here it is. So you can open Zoom like I have it here, right? So you see up here, I'm in a Zoom meeting and I've got my PowerPoint behind there. So if I go here and minimize, you see that I'm staying up in the corner. That's how I make all of your videos. And then let's say this was the PowerPoint I'm going to use and we want to, run it from the start. We can do that. And guess what? I stay right there in the corner. And now you can see me and you can see the PowerPoint. This is the way I want you to record your speech. Now, if you're using a Mac, then this is really simple. You can just, let me come out of this view, go to your search over here and put in Q for QuickTime and then go with that. So go ahead and click on QuickTime. And when you do, you'll see up here that you can hit File. And I can't do it because I'm making one right now, but normally right there, New Screen Recording. And then you can make sure the microphone's turned on so we can hear you and see you. And that's the way you should do it. If you're using a PC, you need to get an app. There are a few different ones out there. I'll leave that to you as to which ones you like. I think you could probably, if you're totally, unfamiliar, I would call the IT help desk, or someone who knows these sorts of things, and ask them what they suggest. But there are at least 3 or 4 that I can think of that will work just fine and make it this simple. Okay, so that's the first part of this, how to record the next speech. Now, let's get into PowerPoint and what it should look like. So, what I've got here is a PowerPoint that I used Friday for a workshop with the McNair program. And I'm showing you this in this view for a couple reasons. And the first is to show you that I always start with a blank slide and then I have my attention getter, or in this case, 2 attention getting slides. So when I start with this blank screen, what happens is that the audience doesn't get either distracted by or too engaged too early or turned off too early about my topic because they don't know what it is yet. It's the same, I think, putting your title slide first, this one here. Putting that first is the same thing as verbally saying, "Hi, my name's Carl, and today I'm going to talk to you about effective research presentations." Martin Luther King Jr. once said, right? That's not it. You don't want the attention getter after you tell us who you are and what you're going to do. So I start blank. I start talking. I say things like, for this group, we've all heard the "I have a dream" speech. Raise your hand if you've heard the "I have a dream" speech. Okay, raise your hand. Keep your hand up if you've heard it more than once throughout your life. Yeah, most all of us. All the hands stayed up. So when Dr. King gave his speech, then I talk about the delivery style because this particular lesson workshop was focused on the delivery aspects of speaking. And so I said, sometimes speaking, the delivery of speaking is more important or less important than the content. Some people think the content's always more important. I happen to think that it's of equal value. And then the example I give is, we all know that this speech was, in my opinion, the most powerful speech ever recorded. But now imagine that this young man delivered that speech. It's just not going to be the same, simply because this young man doesn't have the age, the experience, the likely doesn't have the ability to speak like Dr. King, just because he's young. And even if he had the script on that paper in front of him, delivering it would not feel the same. And if that delivery wasn't sermonic in the way that Dr. King spoke, it's not going to have the impact that it had and continues to have in all reality. So I do that, I do my attention getter, and then I come down and I hit them with the title slide. Here's what my topic is and all the necessary information for that activity. Then here's my preview slide. So I've got my preview up here. Here's all the stuff we're going to cover. There's a lot, I know, and then I go through it in order. What we do here, I want you to stay with me on this. Now, that looked a little convoluted, and it could be, but here's how this is going to work. The next thing I want to tell you about PowerPoint is I don't want you to use animations. Don't use animations. If you want to reveal part of your material, sort of sections at a time, that's fine. You can definitely do that. However, don't make it so that it's animated and it flies in or flies out or comes up or down or explodes or whatever. What I'm doing here is really telling people that they need to think about, let's start here, papers to presentations. Here's the parts of a paper. Then I go down and say, but if you ask yourself these questions about that paper, you can get ready for this audience. What about the audience and the speaker now? Oh, look, the same parts are important with presentations. However, there are some differences. So then I bring it over and note that these are all just new slides. Let's pull it full screen here. So I tell them, sorry, I don't mean to cover up our speaker. When you go and you start a presentation and you're taking it from a paper you've written, of course, you'll start with the introduction. And really all you need to focus on there is the rationale. And so I've got that visual. Then I copied this slide, I duplicated it, and I added this. The literature review will shrink because you don't need to cover all that detail. You just need to give us this sort of quick summary of your lit review. Then I talk about getting to the point, is what that says, after I move myself out of the way again. Get to the point. So once you give them why you're studying this, the rationale and the introduction, you can give a quick summary of that lit review and then the research questions and hypothesis so that we can get to the point of what you're trying to understand in your study. So these people are doing, experiments or survey projects or interview projects. And so they need questions or hypotheses that they're going to either ask or test. And so that is how they get to their point. Then with the method, I'd say just enough to understand what's going on here. You don't need to go into all your depth and detail about why one statistical test is better than another. You just need to let them know that you're doing a statistical analysis using SPSS, for example, and that's it. And that's enough for most people on the method. So it's brief. Then the focus will be on your results and your discussion sections because people want to know, what did you find and what does it mean? And right there is where you tell them what you found and what it means. And then the conclusion, just like I tell you all in Comp 201, should go full circle or make ring structure, and it should go right back around to the introduction and the attention getter as you close things down. So coming out of this view now, you see how I just built, right? I made this slide and then I added to it, duplicated it, added to it, duplicated it, added to it, duplicated it all the way down. And that's really the way I want you to do it. Same kind of thing here. I said practice makes perfect, but I don't believe that's true. Practice makes better. And so again, it's not an animation. It's just a different slide with some slight changes. So keep that kind of stuff in mind as you go through and you're making your PowerPoint. Now, don't worry, I've got a couple other things to share here. Two big things. First is, let me give you some tips on PowerPoint that I will include from this particular PowerPoint because there was a section of it that's exactly what we need to talk about today. And then also I want to take a minute and show you the class template because just like your outline, I have a template for you to use for the PowerPoint so that you don't overdo it or underdo it or completely get it sort of mixed up or wrong in some way. So here we go. PowerPoint do's and don'ts. And let's just blow it up full screen here for us. For this, I want to talk to you about the title slide because you do need one of those. It's just not first. We want this to be a tool for the audience. That's so important. The PowerPoint should not be your notes. Now, it can be if you can get by with very minimal notes. If you just need, like you see on the screen here, short words or phrases, and that's okay for you to remember exactly what you were trying to say, go for it. But if not, don't use this as your notes. You can have additional notes, like whatever you need on paper, you could have that here. And in fact, I also made this for that workshop. So I've told you before, if you need speaker's notes, here's how I recommend you do it. So take the outline, go open a Word doc and do your outline, then turn it to landscape. Then insert one column. So it makes it into two columns, one division, right? So you've got two columns on a landscape piece of paper. Then you do 1 and 2. And so if I fold this, so I've got 1 here, 2's on the back. So as I'm delivering 1, all I have to do with these notes that aren't distracting, not loud, I just turn them over. And now I'm looking at 2, right? Now, as I'm transitioning to a new point, I quietly do this, and I'm looking at 3. Then when I'm ready, I can turn it over, and I'm looking at 4. And so that's basically using 4 note cards, but not in note card form. Don't use note cards. You can drop them. You can get them scattered everywhere. You got to stop, pick them up, put them in order. It's not a good look. This is much better. So don't feel like you can only use what's on the screen. And also, please don't, and we'll talk about this next, minimum text, maximum impact. Don't feel like you need more notes, so you need to put that on the PowerPoint. That's not the job of the PowerPoint. Two different things. Do be sure to proofread and edit your PowerPoint because, again, that's going to go to your credibility, whether it's good or bad. And last, focus on clarity over pizzazz. And that's why I say don't use the animations. I don't have anything against animations as a sort of tool, but when you are recording on your computer, you're taxing the processor already. And so I don't want the processor to then have to make these things happen, these animations happen, when it could just as easily go to the next slide, which is much less work for your computer. And you know as well as I do, if you click once and nothing happens, you click again, nothing happens. So you click 2 or 3 times, suddenly you're 4 or 5 slides ahead. You've got to back it up and find where you were. It's bad, right? It can be a little embarrassing. So we don't want to do that either. Let's look at some examples of this stuff. First of all, with the title slide, don't feel like you need to go nuts. Just put it up there. That's it. Don't go crazy with this. I mean, if you wanted to underline something, or if you're using a pre-made template from PowerPoint, fine, no worries. But don't go overboard here. Just have the basic information that we need. What I will say about PowerPoint and the pre-made templates, usually they're fine, but not always. And so things that you want to look for are font size. Is it as big as it can be without sort of looking out of place? If it's small, and you know what I'm talking about, I hope, where some things will have like the full white space you see here, and the only content would fit in a small box like this. It's not using all this other space. Generally speaking, you'll want to expand that and boost the font size. Also, be aware of color contrasts. So for your background and font colors, make them opposites. It doesn't have to always be black and white or white and black, but it definitely shouldn't be sort of red and purple or green and yellow, that sort of stuff where they sort of can get washed into one another and blended, making it more work for the audience. You don't want that. You want the words and the backgrounds to be clearly distinguishable. Next, don't overload your slides. Now, what you see on the screen is an overloaded slide. All this information is important. Research papers are not the same as presentations, and then I go into how to sort of work between the two models. The reason that you can't overload a slide, or it's just a bad idea, is two reasons, really. One, humans are either going to read or reject. That's your two big options. So on one hand, humans are sort of like German shepherds when they see a squirrel. They just want to go after it because they know they can. And when humans see words on a screen and we're literate, we want to read them because we usually think, I can read those words. What does that say? And when we do that, we're not listening to the speaker. So I don't want you to have so much text up there that people start reading it and not listening to you. The second possibility, which is also bad, arguably worse, is people will see so much text and they'll say, yeah, no, that's too much work. Not going to read that. And they turn you off. And now they're not listening either. So if you don't overwhelm them with all of this text, it can make for a much better connection with that audience. So all of this is important, but there it is again, summarized. It's the same stuff. Now it's on you to get all that information explained. That's part of the verbal delivery. So with this might be in your paper notes, but not on your PowerPoint. This is all you'd want there. Having said that, this slide still sucks. Why? Well, think about this in terms of quadrants. So if we had a line down the middle and a line across horizontally here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 quadrants. And really only one has stuff in it. So we could first just spread out that text. And that's going to cover at least 2, but we still have a big gap over on the side. So consider adding in an image of some sort. You might move that up. I don't know why I got pushed down a little. But with the images, don't just throw something up there. I mean, look at that image carefully. I'm talking to you about overloaded slides, and if you look at the slide on the slide, then it's an overloaded slide. You see, right? Blow your mind. So make sure that these things tie together and they're making sense that you're using them in this way. But less is more with PowerPoint. Now, charts and graphs are great. They often will say things in a very concise way, say in quotes, things in a very concise way, more succinctly than we could write it or speak it. And that's no problem. You should use these. However, this is an example of something that is, it's too much text. Look at all this stuff up here. Again, just like the first example, people are either going to read this and not listen or tune you out because it's overwhelming and not listen. So what can you do if you still want to use this chart? You want to use that trend line, but you don't want to just copy paste this thing. You have some options. One is that you could recreate it. So you could recreate it just off of the stuff that you want to talk about. Or what I recommend is that throwing a big white box over all that text and then putting a text box inside that, which you can put as a label. And now it's pretty clear, right? You're going to walk us through anything you want to point out on here. You could add in other shapes like an arrow to point to certain data points that you want folks to look at. It's completely up to you, but at least get rid of all that distracting text. Right? So again, it's just insert, shape, box, bam, fill, white, or whatever colored background you're using, and then text box over top. It works great. What about things like illustrations? Let's say that you needed to explain parts of a Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton here. Well, this does the job. I mean, it's 2D, it's very basic. It looked great in a 1987, third grade science textbook. I think I was in third grade in 87, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, I was in first grade. But still, the idea is the same in that this could be improved. It's just very basic. So do this. Find a picture of a T-Rex skeleton. This one happens to be out of Chicago, but I mean, you can get them wherever. Just Google it. And then add in your labels: tail vertebrae, leg bone, ribs, and that's that, right? Again, these aren't animations, and I've actually moved the T-Rex skeleton label so that you can watch it bounce. See, there it goes. It's different for all three. And I just did that so that you could see I'm not using animations. I could pull out and show you that too, but this is so much better looking than that. And you could keep going and put as many labels as you want. So again, I'm building my slide. Charts and graphs like this one are nice and clean. I mean, it's tough to improve on this one because you've got nice short labels. You've got very clear bars, and they're in an order of sort of descending order, right, from biggest to smallest. And they've got the percentages marked off on them so you can read it. Now, maybe the only thing that would be more appropriate if you were just focused on one of these would be to highlight it. Just throw another box over that bar and change the color so that we can see it. And again, it's two different slides. Charts and graphs slide right there, and then I duplicate it and I add that in. And so you just move on to the next slide, and that's all there is to it. It's really not that hard. And I know that many of you know these things, but I don't want to take that for granted and assume that you'll be fine, and then you lose points and I didn't teach you how to do it. So here it is. Nice and simple, nice and easy. Now, we've talked about virtual presentations, and so I'm not going to spend time on that, except to say, remember to make sure your angle is good for your recording. Make sure that you are using gestures that we can see. Camera contact is eye contact, etc., etc. Now, where you found this video in the week 12 folder, you also probably found this one, the 201 template. Look how useful this is. It's all blank slides. My God, what does it mean, Carl? Don't worry, I'll explain it in just a second. But here's what I would do if I were you making this PowerPoint for this class. First things first, I'd open up this PowerPoint, and next I would go and find my outline from the last speech, from the first persuasive. Again, if there were any edits that needed to be made, either marked on this form or from the speech itself, take those into consideration. It may slightly change things. It may not change things at all. It may change things dramatically. But whatever your feedback is, sort of apply it and then go ahead and do these steps. So what you'll see, and let's focus on this for a minute, is that you've got these notes down here in the notes section. So blank, then attention getter, image, title slide, preview of points, problem need, satisfaction, visualization, review of points, closure, call to action, and then it's it, right? So I've got 10 slides. Do you have to have only 10 slides or just 10 slides? No, you could get by with probably 9 slides to 15 slides maybe. If you build it like we were just looking at doing, you might have 10 slides for one main point, but it's really just sort of a growing thing. So it's not going to take that long to get through all those slides. Matter of fact, just as an example, it's McNair Part 2, 51 slides, and I think this took like 40 minutes to get through. So there are a lot of slides, but like these, they build fast. So I was talking about be aware of what your face is doing. We talk about RBF. So maybe your face looks like this, or maybe it looks like this. You probably want to be aware that you look like you're upset, and you're not. So don't look that way. Be aware. Control your facial expressions. But whatever you do, don't pull a DJ Khaled and just stare into space. Next, and then I move on, right? So there's 3 slides there, but that took 30 seconds to get through. I mean, that's it. So don't try to do this ratio of slides to minutes. It's not going to work that way. Okay, back to this. Let's go to the top and start with a blank slide. I don't care if it's white or black or whatever color you want it. Make it either match your background or go black. I like black because if you're in a room, it looks like you have nothing on the screen. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into classrooms to give workshops, presentations to classes, and the professor who's teaching the class will say like, all right, you got everything set up? I said, yep, my PowerPoint's pulled up, ready to go. And he or she will look at the screen and say, no, well, it's not on. Maybe we need to turn on the thing. I said, no, it's on. Trust me. And then it is because it's up there. It's just blanked out because I don't want people staring at that title slide, sort of, processing what they might think about what I might say. I want them instead just to be waiting for me to tell them. So if you want to change that color, double click or right click on the slide, format background, solid fill, come here, pick what color you want. I'll go black, and that's it. That's all there is to that one. Then here, attention getter, or the image. So with this one, let's go and find that outline really quick. Should be right there. For our attention getter, we said for the past 6 years, I've been the director of the Speech Lab, public speaking since my senior year in high school, and a new opportunity with stand-up comedy. Okay, so here I am going to use maybe a couple different pictures. So 6 years ago would be it was actually 2014 when I came, so I could even just do something like this. 2014, let's make this big, make it quote unquote fun. I don't know what that might look like. Sure, bold, let's make it big. There are so many different ways to do this. This is just one. So I'm going to go here, and then I might jump over to a browser and get an image. So let's do that. Oops. How to draw a puppy. Yes, I have a 4-year-old. So here we go. Let's do Carl Brown GVSU. And now I want to do image search. And there's my wife and my little boy. So I'm going to go with this because this is like one of the oldest pictures of me at Grand Valley. And it's my glamour shot, they tell me. Wait, I need to do this and do it. Copy image, come back over here. I'm going to shrink it down. I'll tell you what, I'm going to crop it just a little bit. You can, again, you'd probably know all this, but don't be afraid to just chop your images a little bit so that they fit a little better with the space you're using. I used to wear a tie to work, and then I realized why. So, okay, we've got that, and now I need, let's see if I can get GVSU Stand-Up Comedy Club. Whoops. Stand-Up Comedy, GV Stand-Up Comedians. There we go. It's not a great picture, but it'll work. Copy image. Let's go over here. Take it off of that. I might just use this. This would be fine for my attention getting slide. So I could talk about when I came to Grand Valley. Here I am in my first year at Grand Valley, doing a glamour shot by Deb. Still had hair, and I did the stand-up club. Fine. We can make that work. No problem. Then we come here, and we want to put our title slide up. Again, don't overthink this. Simple is good. So we might just say something like stand-up comedy is public speaking, because that's what we're really trying to convince people of. Now, a couple little things here. This is small, but boy, it can make a difference. I am of the opinion that you should take just an extra minute to balance out your title so that it looks nice. So stand-up comedy is public speaking, and you could even do something like italicize this just to give it a little extra is public speaking. That's it. I'm gonna drop this down just a touch. Oops. Can't even type my own name. All right. And that's all you really need. Again, if you want some sort of something special in there, you could do it, but you don't have to. I mean, even if you wanted just to do like a bar of some color here or whatever, it doesn't matter. But that's good for us. Then I'm at my preview slide. So I would say something other than preview. You could do topics to cover. You could do coming up. You could do today's talk, whatever. I don't care. Whatever you want. Just don't say preview, right? And then let's jump back over to this. We had disrespect for stand-up, changing curriculum, and more opportunity for students. So I would just simplify that and say disrespect for stand-up. Then I would add in changing curriculum at GV. Channing it, not changing it. Nope, yeah, channing, I told you. Changing curriculum at GV. And then opportunity. Let's do opportunities and outlets for students. Okay, we're done. Just kidding. Don't leave it like that. Don't leave it like that. So I'm just going to highlight all of this and then come up here. And right there, I'm going to drop that down. I'm just kidding. That's not the right one. So I'm beside it, that one. I'm just going to put this at 3.0 spacing because it's the only words I'm going to have here. So I can space it out, and that's what I would need. I do want you to put an image on every slide. Say it again. I want you to put an image on every slide. You're going to do it. You're going to need it on many. And so if you just leave it off of one or two, it's going to look strange. So what could we do here as this image? We've got a few options. Let's see what other pictures came up here. No, let's just do this one. This would work. Come here. We're going to copy the image. Be careful to not use watermark images. Oops. There we go. Now, this is going to get blurry if I stretch it too far. So I don't want to do too much. You can always shoot up here and put in your slideshow from this slide. And you'll get a better view. So you see that's as soft of a focus as we'll want to use. Okay, so that's good. Now, we're coming here. The problem or the need. Please, God, don't write problem or need. You can put in the name of the main point up here. Right? Disrespect for stand up. Then let's see what we wrote. Oops. We talked about shorter history and few college options. So let's just go back here. We just put in history and then educational options, we'll say. That's all we need for that, but it's probably a good idea for your audience if you have a couple more subpoints here, which we have, so it's not like it's more work. We have Egypt, Egypt and Emerson University BFA. We're going to talk also in that Egypt point about places like Greece. So Egypt, Greece, and Rome. Emerson University, Bachelor of Fine Arts. Educational options. What do we have here? Oh, when things are respected, they have degree options. When they're disrespected, they don't. Degree, well, let's put major equals respect. Minimal options. Okay. So now what we can do, instead of just doing our 3.0 again, is this. So just put an extra space in. Come up here. Let's spread it a little, but not too far. Let's start with 2. Okay. Do this one with 2. You see that it's too much, but don't forget you can change these boxes. If we do this too, I like it. That works for me. So now we could even do something with this that we need an image for. So let's see. What about Emerson College? That'll work. So we're going to copy it. Let's jump back over. Yeah, I put university, didn't I? Yep, that's college. No problems. Come out here, paste it. Got a big one. Let's double click the picture, crop it. Let's shrink it a little. In there. Now, this doesn't have to be an exact science of getting it just right, but you know, use your step back, kind of look at it from a distance here. Maybe throw it up in this view. Yeah, that'll work. All right, moving right along. We have now the solution, but remember, we don't want to call it the solution. So let's look and see what we did here. We said changing curriculum, School of Com. So let's put School of Communications curriculum. It's a long title, but that's all right. So with this one, we said that we're going to create a survey. Now here's, as you may guess, you can put your steps in. So instead of these bullets, get rid of that, go back to home, come up here and put in numbers. So student survey. What's next? Create a proposal for a stand-up course. Okay. Let's do it this way. Stand-up comedy. Wow. Course proposal. We don't need to get the A and B in there. Defend the proposal in UCC, so University Curriculum Committee. And create source materials. Okay, yeah. Plan course is basically what we could say. And then recruit students. Recruit students for class. Good. Those are our steps to our plan. Let's do 1.5 and see what it looks like. I think we can, yeah, it's probably good. Let's drop it down just a touch. Good. So with this one, let's go find an image. School of Communication curriculum. So I'm going to put in GVSU School of Communications. And then images, of course. We've got this. We've got the building. It's kind of bland, but why not? Copy image. That might not fit very well. Yeah, so that one's going to be just a tough fit. So it would work, but I don't like it because it doesn't fit real well. Let's find if there's something else that would work. Oh, there I am again. Okay, let's do this. Let's go back to all, and then click on that. See what pictures are on that website. Our programs, communication studies, because that's where it would be. And there's nothing there. Okay, advising faculty get involved. About us. All right, so it looks like that might be the way to go. Copy the image. Paste the image, is going to be huge. Yep. So let's crop it. That out. Take that out. Make it smaller. Good. Done. Next. This is visualization, or as we said last time, respect for stand-up comedy results in improvements for students. So let's just do that. Improvements for students. And what were those? The door for more scholarship. Okay, stand-up scholarship. More options. Let's do that. Stand-up scholarship. Options for courses. Now, I just realized something here. Notice how I've got this capitalized but not this. That's wrong. I don't know which one's right and which one's wrong, but it's wrong to have them different. So I'm just going to go back and make it lower. And I think I may need to double check that. That's part of that editing and proofreading. So options for courses. What was another one? Brings legitimacy. Okay. Legitimizes. Okay. Stand up comedy. Great. Let's do that. Let's throw it into 3.0. Got it. Let's see what happens if we put in stand-up comedy class. None of these are great. Is this East Tennessee State University? Or is it? No. So we're in Indiana. Okay. Let's go to. That's kind of different. It's not real great, but again, there's not a perfect image for any of these, but that'll work. Classic stand-up stage. So we're going to copy it, drop down. Nope. Okay, let's crop a little. Slide over. Now, this one's a little bit tricky just because it looks funky with those words. So let's try to get it just right. That feels good. Let's see about slideshow, current slide. Yeah. Good. Now we should be at the review. Yes. Do yourself a favor. Grab this. Just hit copy. Paste. Cut this slide out. And here, let's just make this the review. And so instead of topics to cover, topics covered. You could just say today's talk included, or whatever again you want to do. And we've got that. That's right. We can leave that if you want. Then here we've got our closure. So back to the attention getter. And in the attention getter, we've got pictures of me. Let's not use any more of those, for God's sake. So if we go back, let's jump back out here and do one more time. GVSU Stand-Up Comedy Club. Let's get a better image here. So, okay. That was an event, so we can go ahead and copy the image. Oops. Put it up here. That's really all we want. You can try to stretch and see if it'll not throw everything off. This might work pretty well. Looks just a little too stretched, so I'm going to leave it about right here. Then I'm going to move it over so I get my center lines so I know where it's at. Then I'm going to right click, just like I did on the blank slide, format background, make it black, and then it sits on there much cleaner, and it doesn't look so abrupt, when it stops. And then last here, this is the call to action. So join the club today. So here's what you can do here. You can say join the club, that's fine, or your first step in your plan would be something to also consider. So a student survey, I think since we don't have that survey yet, we'll say join the club so that you can make the survey. So join I don't think we need anything else. We can just use the words for that. And then let's get an image up here. Join the club and see what comes up. Join the club, join the club, join the club, join the club. Looks fun. Ew. Maybe not. Okay, if this comes out right, it'll look good. If you're not familiar, this is supposed to be a PNG image. That's that background, so it disappears, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So let's see. Hey, it worked. So I'm going to go ahead and take out this text box. I'm going to make sure that this is centered there. And I'm going to put, let's do insert text box. And I'll put my email address, brownca1. Actually, here's another good tip. The more simplified you can make the call to action, the better. So my email address is brownca1 at gvsu.edu, but for whatever reason, Carl Brown at gvsu.edu works just the same. So make sure that's visible. Let's center it within the box. Boost it up. And then find that center line. There it is. Let's make this a little bigger. And recenter it. Okay. Join the club. And there it is. You know what? You don't even need this necessarily. Just cut that out. Move this up. Move this up. And we're good. So now let's just take a quick look at it in the big view. Blank slide. When I first came, blah, blah, blah. Stand-up comedy is public speaking. That could probably come down just a little bit. Here's our preview slide. Okay, so these first bullets all have caps. That's okay. Caps, caps. Got caps on everything. So these need to then, oops, that needs to change. But, okay, here's why I'm going to leave it the same as it already is, because these are numbers and the others are bullets. So I feel like there's enough demarcation there. And this one needs to change for sure. That's the same. There's the club. Join the club. Great. So then I can just come out of here. Stand up scholarship. Options for courses. Legitimizes stand up comedy. Good. So now I'm going to save it and I'm going to post it so that you can see it. Save as stand up PPT example in 201. I think that's what I want to be. Yeah. Save it. Now I'll put that up. Obviously, you've probably already seen it. And that's all. That's it. I mean, that's really all there is to it. So don't overthink this stuff. Just hang in there and you're going to be fine. Again, as a reminder, first of all, quiz 5's due this week, the last quiz. Then as you are working on your PowerPoint, don't forget that's due at the end of next week. Let's look at our syllabus together to make sure we're all on the same page. Let that guy go. That's my 498 syllabus. You don't need that yet. One day. So here we go. Review, feedback, quiz 5. Next time you're going to work on your PowerPoint. So you've got plenty of time to do this. Again, go to the speech lab. That's a good time for you to go and get some help with any of this. There's the PowerPoint where you're going to turn it in at the end of next week. You're going to give your second persuasive speech, and we'll talk about the retrospective later. All right. It's all up here now. You've got things to work with, examples, models, template. Should be all set. But of course, if you have any questions at all, let me know. Email me, go to the speech lab, and we're going to get through it. So I will talk to you next time.